Good morning. You're listening to the Highland Waves podcast coming to you from Marshbrook Studios, situated beside the world-famous Margaree River in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada. I'm Pat Wall, your host. This morning I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Steve Ballentine of Calumet, Massachusetts, who, along with his wife Sally, is a long-time seasonal resident of Margaree. Welcome to Highland Waves, Steve.
Morning, Pat. Nice to be here.
Their beautiful property that overlooks the Margaree estuary is known by the local residents as Ballentine's Hill. Steve, you were born where?
I was born and live presently in Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
You grew up and were educated there?
Well, I don't know how much I was educated, but I grew up there anyway, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you own Ballentine's Boat Yard in Calumet.
In Katamet, yes.
Is Katamet?
Katamet is how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Okay.
I started that business 50 years ago, and have since, about 2 years ago, passed it on to my daughter Amy. I still maintained a fairly close relationship there, of course, but she runs the show, and I go in and get in the way whenever I'm able.
Okay.
Yeah. And my father was in the business actually too.
Okay.
I started my own business after working for him for several years, but he was in the boat business for his whole life too, and he's the one that actually came here first.
Okay. What's involved in your business?
Well, we are primarily storage, maintenance. And we do quite a lot of restoration of wooden boats and fiberglass boats. I primarily started with wooden boats, that being my first love. My father was a boat builder as well, and he built quite a few boats for pleasure use and commercial fishing actually too. And so I grew up with boats, and grew up in around the business. And my focus was more on wooden boats and sailing boats. So I guess sail comprises about 95% of our business.
And you also build boats.
And we build boats as well too. We've built several smaller boats in wood, but have since purchased another business that was begun in the early 70s, which creates replicas of smaller sailboats. We have two sailboats particularly that we reproduce. One, and they're both Herreshoff designs, if anyone's familiar with those. One is the 1914 design, 16 foot long, a very prevalent class. Ever since 1914, and we reproduced that in fiberglass, and another one that was designed in 1932, a 28-foot day sailor that we reproduce in glass. And more of our business now is switching over to those two boats being a very prominent part of our business, and we've gotten out of a lot of the restoration work that I spent so much time with.
Do you build on consignment, or do you build for the mass market?
We build mostly on consignment, not on consignment, but we'll build one or two boats perhaps ahead of the demand to always have something in hand that we can sell fairly readily. The actual fiberglass portion of it we contract out, so the hull and the decks and all of the components, all of the glass components are built elsewhere where they do just that kind of thing, and we then retrieve all of the components add the lead, then put the deck on, then do all of the interior work, and then all of the woodwork as the final phase. And so we actually put all of the components together and provide the finished product.
Is your company known for a particular type of boat?
I wouldn't say so, other than these two boats and a lot of the earlier boats of these same models that we rebuilt. I know that I dealt with more than 100 of the small boats in wood of the same design that we build in fiberglass now. They were very, very popular. I think initially, through the years in the early part of the century, they built around 350 of that 16-footer in wood, and a lot of those boats are still going. I rebuilt many of them completely. We just finished one this last year that was built initially in 1914, but a lot of the boats that were built in the 20s and the 30s we rebuilt, and then we've done several of the larger boats too in the Herreshoff, under the Herreshoff building, up to 47 feet, I guess. One of them is a 1902 Herreshoff, 47 foot long, and we still maintain that one. And we rebuilt a 46 foot powerboat, actually, that was built in 1931. That was another large job that we undertook several years ago, and it took 4 years to actually complete it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a boat called a Stuart Knockabout?
The Stuart Knockabout is the fiberglass version of the 1932 boat that we built. It was designed initially in 32 by L. Francis Herreshoff, the son of Nathaniel Herreshoff, and we've built a dozen or so of those, and between ourselves and the original builder, I think we're up to 89 of them now.
What is that particular boat used for mostly?
It's just day sailing. It's an open boat, no cabin, but it's a keel centerboard boat in Marconi rig, and it's fairly fast under a fairly moderate size rig, and it's a pleasure to sail. That's all I sail now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a busy life, especially in your hometown of Calumet, where you also lead a fundraising campaign, I think, for the recovery or the protection of a natural area. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's a conservation organization that we began in 1980. I was one of the original founders of that, and have remained the president of that organization for however long that is, 45 years. And our primary goal was in preservation of some of the parcels of land, particularly in our locale, that were under siege at the time for development. A lot of the larger parcels were being purchased and subdivided for development, and it was changing the complexion of the locale there, and so we saw a need for something like this to try to curtail that endeavor and plan how a lot of the locale was to be developed or not developed, and a lot of the pieces are we've put into conservation. We've linked together and made larger parcels and provided a network of walking paths for the public to enjoy. And all of this has actually been through public funding, where we've seen the need for it. We've put parcels under agreement, and then sought the encouragement and the support of the people most affected by that piece of land in that particular area, and it expanded into more than just our small village. It expanded into several other villages right nearby, and so what we started with one initial purchase in land right around me. Is a very parochial interest at the time, of course, and very it involved me personally because it was right in my backyard.
Okay.
So that's what started it, but it expanded into quite an area. But that first parcel saved about 10 acres right around me out of a 20-acre parcel, which had a couple houses on it. We subdivided off and those parcels that had dwellings on them and saved what we could out of it. And from that initial endeavor, we've done 60 or 70 parcels of property now, totaling over 300 acres anyway, and
wow.
which is a lot in an area that's already developed.
Yeah, exactly. You sort of set the tone and the example for.
And almost all of that has been through the support of people around us, or our the neighborhoods and the people that it affected the most, and so they've supported us in dollars, and all of those parcels have been purchased, almost all of them. We've had several gifts, as a matter of fact, too. But so I think that our total fundraising endeavor for all of those parcels has amounted to somewhere around $15 to $17 million.
Wow. Well, congratulations deserved on that one for sure.
It's amazing what can happen after success breeds success, certainly, too.
Sure, yeah.
And I think once it caught on, people saw the advantages of what we were doing. It mushroomed into a good deal of support and ongoing support. And at present, right now, we're actually fundraising for an endowment to expand our endowment anyway. So there's always something. This will provide that this conservation trust that we formed will go on forever, long after I'm gone, and then the next people are gone. It'll be cared for.
Is there a location or a telephone number or a website people can look to get connected with you and your organization in that regard?
Yes. The organization is called Bourne Conservation Trust, BOURNE Conservation Trust, and we're located in Cottawmut, Massachusetts.
Great. Back to boat building for a second. I understand you built and maintained a boat for the late famous Canadian actor Donald Sutherland.
Yes, we had one of these Stuart knockabouts actually that we sold to him, and got to meet him and know him a little bit. Spent a few days with him and enjoyed it very much, and we communicated actually several times after that. He had a summer home, I would say, in Canada, almost into Vermont, just above Vermont, on one of the long lakes there. So we delivered the boat there to him and had launched it and sailed it with him. Stayed and had a couple of meals with him and laughed a few times. And
nice.
Yeah, he's a very enjoyable person.
Great. Speaking of Canada, how did you get involved with this smaller part of Canada, Margaree?
Well, I had no, personally, I had no connections earlier with Canada anywhere. I'd never really traveled to Canada, to Toronto or Montreal or any of the Maritimes actually, until my father, as I had said earlier, was in the boat business and was looking for a place to a quieter place to get away to, and he chose to look into the Maritimes. He first looked into PEI, spent some time there, and had met someone from there actually through his business on Cape Cod. And this fellow had traveled down there by boat, and they got friendly. Anyway, he did go to Prince Edward, looked around, and then subsequently traveled to Cape Breton, which he liked a lot more because of the terrain, I think, and the landscape, and the changing landscape actually, and so it's so much more character. And I felt the same way actually when I saw it too. It's full of character and diverse landscape, and the people are very accommodating and friendly, and so I started coming here with him in 1980, and he initially bought a piece of land near Bedeck, and then got traveling around while he was there, and met some local people here in the Margarees, and got to know several of them, and came back a couple times, and he found a piece of property here in Margaree that he liked a lot, and ended up purchasing it. And I think that was 1978, actually, 78 or 79. And so then he started coming up, and he did a little work on the property, clearing, and then was not able to really enjoy it. My mother was ill at the time, and that changed his plans for an escape, I think. And even when she was ill, I would come up here with him and spend a little time, and we got to know a lot of the older people here that are gone now. And then when he died in 1993, I had been coming up here for several years by that point, and with my family, and we'd stay over at Whale Cove when it was brand new, and spent several years doing that, maybe once every 2 years, and then more often after that. And after he died, I had already developed quite an interest in the area, and decided to hold on to the property. So I did. I worked it out with the family, and we ended up with the property, and since that point, we actually are coming up. We have been coming up more regularly and for longer periods of time now, particularly where I'm mostly retired. So now we spend most of the summer here.
So you built the property here. Did you build it yourself, or did you have a contractor do it for you?
I did some more clearing on the property, thinking that I would probably build something near where the old home site used to be, about halfway up the hill. It was owned initially by McDonnell's, and there was only that one house there on the property, and a field around it, and I expanded on that field, and my father had cleared an area above that, more for viewing than anything else, and he also was going to build down on the old home site, but never did. And I thought that I liked it up high, so I thought initially would build a small cabin up there, which would give us better use of the property when we came up, and I would eventually build down below something that was more suiting, more with more amenities. And but we liked that cabin and that location way up high. The view is just amazing, and I never tire of it. So we kind of abandoned the plans of building down below, and expanded to a 2-room cabin now up on the hill, and it's off the grid. We have no electricity, and but for our use, it's just absolutely comfortable, and you just can't overstate the view. Really, it's just a very mesmerizing spot, and we enjoy it a great deal.
Well, you certainly have some wonderful views up there, particularly in all time of the year, but particularly in the fall with the colors. And from your place on the hill, you certainly travel the area. In fact, you probably know the back roads of Inverness County better than any of us that live here.
Well, I don't know about that, but I've gone down many a wood road, only to come to where I had to turn around and had a difficult time turning around sometimes.
Yeah.
But we've always made it out of them anyway. But I enjoy looking around at some of the old properties, and the island just offers so much in the way of views and variety and just exposure to.
That's your favorite activity for you and Sally when you're here, is to visualize what's around you and what Cape Breton is all about in that terms.
Well, we do a bit of that traveling around, a lot of times just to the same old places we've been before. It's just it's just as interesting the second or the third or fourth time around, it seems like. But we spend a lot of time just up on the hill reading, and for me it's a complete getaway from what
very busy life which you have, and a very busy environment that you live in.
Yes, it's in the summertime on Cape Cod. It's just overwhelming to me. I mean, I grew up there and everything, and I saw it change from very, very comfortable and a quiet setting to where it's been in demand by tourists that come on every weekend and overwhelm the place, it seems like, and fill it. And not only on the roads where the traffic is a big issue to me, but on the water. It's on weekends on the water, I don't even like going out.
That's not something.
Yeah.
What individual strengths do you see amongst the people here in Margaree?
What individual strengths?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know exactly what you mean, but I think that the character and the openness of the public here is very appealing to me. We've become friendly with a lot of people around, and it's very easy because they're so welcoming. We enjoy the people here a great deal.
That's great, and they enjoy you as well. Many people who come to the Margaree come here to fish for salmon. I don't think you participate in that sport at all, do you?
I do not. No. And I feel better about that decision every time I go towards the northeast and see them standing out there in the rain.
Yeah. Well, you first started coming here a long time ago, and you've probably seen a lot of changes here as well since you started coming here.
We have. Not enough to deter me from coming here, certainly, but we've seen a slow change over the many years, as you would anywhere, really. A home here, a home there. People that grew up here have been away, and they end up coming back and building or taking over the old homestead or whatever. And every time we come up, there's a couple new driveways and a couple new houses, and overall it makes quite an effect, but only in August, particularly, do you see any real influx of traffic impact. I think that's probably the worst month. But the changes in just as I say, a house here and a house there, the population has grown a little bit, and the amount of dwellings, but in order to accommodate that influx too, there's more business. There are more restaurants. When I first came here, there was very few places to go actually, and groceries and things like this are so much more accessible now than they used to be because of the demand. So there's been a subtle change all along, but you still look around and see so much open land and so many places that haven't visually changed at all, and that helps. The one thing, one other thing that I have seen is the use of the beaches. When I first, and for many years after I've been here, I would go for a swim here and there and never worry about parking. And now I just don't. I rarely go because of that, because it's just the beaches that Chimney Corner or even the harbor, Whale Cove.
Yeah.
You can't get close to those places now, particularly on weekends, and so that's been a big change.
Yeah. You have a fairly large property here, and it needs to be maintained. Do you have difficulty getting people to maintain your property for you?
Well, a little, but I've had the fields mown pretty much every year, at least portions of them, and every other year we'll do all of the fields just to maintain them as fields, because they grow in so fast if you don't. And I've had road work as a constant thing with road work really all the way along. When I first started coming here and using the property, the driveway to the top, which is about 1 kilometer long, was difficult, and it washed away a good deal, and the trees were grown into from the sides, and there was a lot to. It was an experience every time you went up, I think. But over the years we've opened up the drive a bit, and we've added drainage, ditches, gravel, and clearing along the sides with machinery, and it's a constant thing. Right now we've got it in pretty good shape, and seems to be holding up quite well. But it's been a struggle.
Have you had any difficulties with vandalism or anything in your property?
I think once, and that was early on when we first built the cabin, I think, actually.
Okay.
And it wasn't severe anyway, but someone had broken in.
You've been here a long time, and you've contributed to this community as well. Not just through taxes, but you've also donated to several organizations here. I know you've covered the cost of graveling some of the community parking areas, among other things. And it's obvious that people here appreciate it, because when June comes around, I'm often approached and asked, "Are the Ballentines here? When are they coming?" Or they'll say, "I see the Ballentines are here." And that to me is an indication of how much your presence here is appreciated. And people are thankful for all you do. Before we wrap up, is there anything you would like to add?
Oh, no, I can't think of anything. Just that we certainly appreciate the area, and we look forward every year to coming back. When Cape Cod turns into summer, I start to count the days as to when I can leave it. And I love my home in Katomet as well too, but I really enjoy getting away and coming up here where things are a little more laid back. It's beautiful landscape and wonderful people.
Well, thank you for coming to talk to our listeners about boats and about Ballentine's Hill, your vacation place here in Margaree. May you and Sally and your family continue to enjoy it for a very long time. And thank you to our listeners. Please hit the like and especially the subscribe button so you can stay up to date. And remember, subscribing to Highland Waves is free. Our thought for today is, only the guy who isn't rowing has time to rock the boat. So long for now, Pat.